Alright, let's recap. This playlist is all about personal finances and financial stability. In the past few videos, I showed you how to build a financial tracker and planner tool as a spreadsheet. This is quite flexible, easy to use, and can be customized and tailor-made to your specific circumstances, to your specific needs. In my last video, I took it a step further and showed you an automation possibility if you happen to have an Android phone that can be used to convert the push notifications sent by your mobile banking app and convert them into records and kind of push them into a spreadsheet on your Google Drive. And from there, this transactional data can be easily copy-pasted into your tracking tool. Today, as promised, I'm going to show you a second option. This is again for you Android users out there that takes it a step further and converts these push notifications as they happen into an email and send it to your mailbox. From there, the steps are similar. You can just copy and paste these transactional details into your tracking tool. It's quite a reliable, easy to set up and free tool, and I'm using both as a combination. So this gives me a pretty stable day-to-day basis to track my finances, an automatically filled spreadsheet on my Google Drive, and email notifications or emails getting as they happen into my mailbox. So let me move to my other desk there and let me share my screen, and I'll walk you through the steps on how to use this tool and how to build this automation. I'm pretty sure you will like it. On your Android device, please search for MacroDroid. This is the application that we are going to use. Again, I'm not affiliated with the company or with the developer of this application, but I just quite like that it's very simple to use, it's reliable, and it just works. So once installed, please open it. And this is the welcome screen. If you are launching it for the first time, this is the welcome screen that explains what MacroDroid does, and it also explains the three most important fundamental concepts of the whole automation process. So MacroDroid makes life easier or simpler, offering automation capabilities. The very first concept that it explains is a trigger, which is essentially an event that occurs on your mobile device, and MacroDroid is able to detect this event and it can make an action after a certain event. Which takes us to the second concept, probably the simplest one of the three. An action is nothing else but a useful step in the automation process once a trigger was detected by MacroDroid, which at this point reminds me to say that MacroDroid needs to run always in the background on your mobile device. And then lastly, the third action, we are not actually going to use it for our example purposes today, but this is a constraint, which means that basically based upon a certain trigger, an action should only run under certain circumstances. And this is basically, in simple terms, what a constraint is. If you are launching MacroDroid for the first time, it asks for some permissions. One is to be able to send you notifications. So please allow it, because it might be useful, it will be useful in the future. And this is the main screen of MacroDroid. At first it may seem super complicated because it is a complex piece of software. It offers many capabilities, but don't worry, we are just going to build a very basic automation which is called a macro with this tool. So just touch on the macros icon, second from the left. And since we don't have anything yet, so clearly it just indicates that we are a blank slate. There is nothing, no macros created whatsoever so far. So let's click on the plus sign, and very simple, very streamlined user interface. pops up, and it explains to us that, okay, we need to define at least 2 of the 3 steps in a certain macro. Again, macro equals a certain automation that helps us in our daily lives. So let's click on the trigger. So in our case, the trigger will be a notification that will come from a certain application. Before doing that, again, for the first time, it indicates that if you happen to have favorite triggers, then it can be launched in a much more streamlined way. But let's just hit OK. Once again, for the first time, it explains what a trigger is. We already know what it is, so let's move on to device events. And a notification is a device event, but as you can see here, there are lots and lots of events that can be utilized. This is gold. This is golden. So, but for our purpose, let's find notifications. And yes, MacroDroid requires access to notifications, so we have to accept it. And this takes us to our Android device settings, and you have to enable it. And in order to be able to do that, you have to allow certain things for MacroDroid to be able to do. So let's allow this. Once the little switch is turned on, we can go back to the MacroDroid application. Here is the interesting part. This whole thing begins here. It asks you, okay, you said notifications, but when exactly should this trigger be recognized? When a notification is received, or when you dismiss a notification, or where you clear a notification? In our case, notification is received should be the trigger. And very smartly, it says, okay, but please select the application or applications that can be used for this triggering step. So in my example case, I searched for Revolut, so I just simply typed in Rev, and then I just put the checkbox on next to Revolut. And this is a very interesting screen, because here you can specify very specific message patterns that you would like to be used as a trigger. In our case, let's leave everything as is, so you don't have to change anything here. We will accept any message from Revolut, regardless what the case is. By the way, this is the first checkbox towards the bottom. Is case insensitive, means that it doesn't matter if the message contains uppercase or lowercase letters. It doesn't matter to us, so we will just use it. Ignore ongoing notifications. It means that, just imagine the scenario that you are triggering on a navigational tool, and with every turn of your car or your bike, it triggers a notification. We don't want that, so we just want to get one message, one trigger, one notification to be accepted. So that's it. And also the third one is important: prevent multiple triggers. So we just want to send one email based on one notification, so that's all good. But again, this is the default, very smart default settings, so just click OK and we are good. Our trigger is done. So next one is the action. What should happen when Revolut sends a notification, or this trigger is happening on your mobile phone? Click on actions. Here you need to scroll a little bit down, because the messaging section is what you ultimately need, because we need to send an email. Find this messaging section and send an email. It asks you for a permission to access your contacts, but don't worry too much, because it's not going to be like other social media applications that can actually pull all your contact list and then it will share it in the cloud or somewhere anonymously. No, it's basically, I believe it's just a technical term saying that it requires you to get access to your mail box setup, so your inbox setup. So just allow it. And here next step is saying that, okay, are you going to use a Gmail account to send that email? just remember that MacroDroid in itself cannot send an email. It needs to use a proper account, and then on behalf of that account it needs to send that email. So yes, we say Gmail, and on my specific mobile I have many mailboxes, so I select the one which I need to use to be able to send this email on behalf of that mailbox or the sender, essentially. So I select that, and here is what the email message will contain. Very interesting step, and this is the most complex one, but it's still simple enough. So the email address that you have to send the email to is going to be hello@liferevise.com. The subject is going to be a text which I just added as the subject line of the email, MacroDroid notification from, but here we are going to be smart and use some variable. It's basically, we are going to use the name of that application that we selected in a smart way. So please hit those horizontal 3 dots and just search for app, and we are going to insert the notification app name into the subject line, to the title. It will make sense when I show you an example at the very end of this presentation what it actually means. And then the most important step is hit again the horizontal 3 dots and search for notification text, which is going to be the body of the notification, so the main text in the notification which we are going to use, and this is what we are going to send as part of the body of the email. And that's it. You can hit the check mark at the bottom and we are done. No constraints is needed. So ultimately we need to give a name to this macro or to this automation, which is going to be notifications from Revolut. And finally, last step is to add it to our list of macros. And here you go, you just created an automation macro. It hasn't run, so it says they're never activated. Okay, but meanwhile, while I was recording this video, I actually did a test run and I also received a notification from Revolut meanwhile. So this is how my mailbox looks like at the moment. The very first email still doesn't contain a proper email or message body and the app name, because that was just a test run, so don't worry too much about it. I just did a test run. But the second email I just received actually does contain the name, which is like MacroDroid notification from Revolut. And since there was a transaction on my Revolut account, I actually received an email with the proper message body. So from here, again, just getting back to our financial tracker application, by receiving an email about every single transaction, you will be able to just simply copy paste your financial transaction details into your tracker spreadsheet. And that's it. We are done with the second option for the automation, which is done by MacroDroid. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video.